Welcome back, Wolfpack Rollers here, and this is how to use Lucario and Mega Lucario, mostly Mega Lucario, so let's go and get into the stats. Mega Lucario has some really good sweeping stats, and when we look at it, 145 on the attack, 140 on the special attack, so really, this Pokemon is very strong from a special attacking standpoint, or a physically attacking standpoint, that a lot of the Pokemon we've reviewed, they dream to have a 145 in an offense and over 110 in a speed like Mega Lucario. So once Mega Lucario gets up and gets going, there's a lot of real threat behind this Pokemon because it does find a good amount of outspeeds while not being the fastest Pokemon. That there are quite a few Pokemon that still can outspeed, and that is worth keeping in mind. That's about the 50th fastest Pokemon, so there's about 50 Pokemon that are realistically faster than Lucario after it Mega Evolves, but it's still in that good tier that, you know, once you break down a lot of your opponent's sweepers, you come in with some outright attacks, and then you're good to go. As for the defenses and hit points, not too much worth talking about. It's a sweeper. It's not meant to get touched or else it turns to glass and breaks, so that's something to consider when dealing with Mega Lucario. Looking at its typing, it's going to be a Fighting Steel typing, which is really interesting because you hold on to a lot of weaknesses and resistances. It's mostly that you keep your steel aspects and then you get rid of the fighting weaknesses. So Psychic and Fairy and Flying do go away from that steel typing, but you do keep fighting, ground, and fire weaknesses, and unfortunately those are a bit common, so they are definitely worth looking out for. Immunity to Poison, Standard, and then a lot of resistances. Does help Lucario with switch-ins, but overall I'm pretty sure the opponent isn't going to try to hit it with a resist, so you're just going to look for those super effective hits, which again, Fire and Ground, you might run into an Earthquake or a Flamethrower or something like that, so it is common and something to be avoided. Now, hopping into Pokemon Showdown, I have to say, I have done so much work, so much research, so much everything to make sure I get Mega Lucario right this time. And so far, what I'm feeling is that, yeah, I was right the first time. Mega Lucario is surprisingly balanced. And I don't even mean that in a sarcastic or ironic way. That I've been running a lot of damage calculations, I've been looking at its setup, I've been looking at how it reacts, and it's just a standard sweeping Pokemon. It comes in, if it has advantage, it does well. That we've gone so far through the Pokedex, I've almost reviewed every single competitively viable Pokemon in this game. And Lucario, you know, it's a little bit above the others, but that's because it's a Mega. Mega evolutions are supposed to be stronger, and the more I break it down, you know, there are a lot of really disgusting Pokemon that we have reviewed. They come in, they get one turn of setup, and they run away with the game, and Mega Lucario is no different. So let's go and see how Mega Lucario breaks down. Pretty much what you want to do is a Jolly Nature. That way you're faster than everything, then you go the rest into attack, and here's where Mega Lucario's power comes in. When it Mega Evolves, it gets Adaptability. Same type attacks become 2 times instead of 1.5 times damage. So it's kind of like throwing out a neutral super effective hit instead of just a stab hit. Therefore, it is a bit more powerful. But the weird thing is that you have to run Jolly on Lucario. If you get outsped, if you get hit by any kind of strong attack, it's over. That it really doesn't matter. You're very susceptible to getting one shot. Any kind of status hurts you as well. That if your opponent takes one Pokemon, like, you know, they sacrifice a Pokemon just to get a Thunder Wave or Paralysis on you, or a Will-O-Wisp or some kind of status, it can be worth it because then Mega Lucario folds like paper, and that's going to be pretty tough to get around. So Adaptability also puts in this weird tier that with the attack, we've seen this before. Pokemon like Mega Sharpedo, they get a lot of surprising damage boosting, but they just don't have enough. That if it's a neutral hit, Mega Lucario is not going to find reliable KOs. That a lot of bulkier Pokemon, unless it is a super frail Pokemon or a super effective hit, Lucario's going to have a hard time finding that super effective, and then it does have a lot of retaliation against it. What makes Lucario work so well is that it is a very scary Pokemon. That if you don't have something to immediately deal with it, it can set up against you and it can get a lot of damage. So if you play Lucario perfectly, I mean like unbelievably perfectly, like somehow you manage to get some kind of impossible prediction, then yeah, that's where Lucario starts getting scary. But realistically, Lucario is a very balanced Pokemon. So let's go and look at some other things. Another thing behind Mega Lucario is that one of your main forms of stab physically is actually pretty terrible. And I don't mean Iron Tail's like terrible, but 75% accuracy. If you're relying on a 75% accuracy move to get the damage down, that could be pretty bad. Same for Stone Edge. So yeah, Iron Tail could be that move that it's a 25% chance to lose, and if unfortunately that happens to you, that could be pretty bad. And then we're looking at Stone Edge. Stone Edge, when we think about, you know, Mega Lucario without its stab, without adaptability, it's just a jolly 145 base attack Pokemon that's not with a Life Orb or Choice Band or anything. So that Stone Edge is going to be pretty weak unless it's hitting super effective, and even then you still have options. We can look at Ice Punch. Ice Punch is going to be something, you know, you have to hit that super effective hit. You have to make it an overwhelming hit, or else it can kind of fall apart on you. You don't have enough damage, you get redemptioned, and then now just GG. So overall, you know, Lucario does have a lot of damage power. It's plug and play though. You turn up really quick, and then you can get a lot of damage. Some other coverage moves, you do have access to Earthquake, which is going to be something very powerful. You can actually run Earthquake instead of Iron Tail, then put like your Rock coverage here. Rock Slide might be necessary, because pretty much the biggest thing behind Rocks is that you're going to want to make a predictive play onto a Talonflame with it, or make a prediction against a fast kind of flying type Pokemon, or else you're in trouble. Then you might as well not be running Rocks at all. Ice Punch, I feel, could work better because of Dragon coverage. You outspeed the Dragon, you get a 4-time super effective hit. Now we're talking, now we're dealing with some craziness. Alright, so this is just outright attacking Lucario. There are other threatening ways of running Lucario, and that's setup. It gets Nasty Plot, it gets Agility, and it gets Swords Dance, and this is where Lucario gets scary, that it makes it a very hard Pokemon to predict. But at the same time, that's not everything. So with Flash Cannon and Aura Sphere and all these, we're using lower base power moves, but they do have some very high reliability. Flash Cannon, 100% accuracy. Aura Sphere doesn't miss. That it doesn't even check accuracy. That's how cool it is. But we are going to be running a little bit less damage. That 140 to 145 base is pretty much inconsequential, but it is less overall, and we still need that speedy nature. So again, we have to look for that super crazy hit, or we do have to get a Nasty Plot off really well. Now, there is a problem with Lucario, that it is very vulnerable while setting up, like many setup Pokemon, that if it gets predicted, you know, it comes in to scare you off just to set up a Nasty Plot or a Swords Dance, and then you just use a super strong move in its face, and now it's severely weakened, and then it gets some kind of KO because it finally got that Nasty Plot off, but then you just bring in a faster Pokemon. Like, that's pretty much the story behind Lucario. You bring in a faster Pokemon, and then you can really either force it out, but if you're bringing a sweeper, not a lot of things want to switch into some hard-hitting sweepers if you're using it to check a Mega Lucario or just kind of revenge in that way, so that could be a pretty big problem. But at the same time, Mega Lucario, if it outspeeds, if it gets a Nasty Plot, if it gets a Swords Dance, and then it outspeeds, it can take over a game really quick, but it's not unlike any other kind of setup or sweeper Pokemon. So then we also have Vacuum Wave. Vacuum Wave actually works out pretty cool in this. Nasty Plot's going to boost it, Adaptability is going to boost it, and then we have Priority. So as long as it's not a Ghost-type Pokemon, that could be pretty well. But at the same time, a Ghost Poison-type Pokemon will resist you pretty hard. And, like, there's a lot of things that, you know, this set gets walled. Every set kind of has its drawback. This doesn't have enough damage in some situations. This set can get walled. I like the idea of Agility, but at the same time, you're running lower coverage. But with Agility, you do get some tankiness, and this could actually maybe be one of the more surprisingly powerful sets on Lucario. They use that turn for Agility. It doesn't really matter if they switch, they predict, or whatever, you still have enough hit points to survive, and then that's when you go to coverage. But the problem after that is, again, now we have to make sure that coverage lands. However, we are running an Adamant Nature on this. I don't know why people haven't been running Agility Mega Lucario, honestly. That is tanky enough to survive in some situations, and then it will make you outspeed those Scarf Pokemon. It will make you outspeed those Pokemon that are coming in to get a handle on you, and now you're running Adamant Nature, so you're getting a huge boost to your attack. That's 389 compared to freaking 427. Now this actually makes it to where you get more neutral KOs. You aren't as reliant on that coverage, and that could be a very powerful thing for you, and then you can still have 3 slots. But again, 3 slots means less coverage than 4. You might have to give up your priority here. So with Agility, pretty much take off Bullet Punch, and then you plug and play whatever other moves you want right here. Then we have Swords Dance, kind of the same idea. Swords Dance, Close Combat, Iron Tail. Since we are doing Swords Dance, it probably is safer to run Bullet Punch here. There is a lot of damage, especially if you like Swords Dance, Bullet Punch. Super effective hits should be enough to carry you, but there are some things that can still resist you pretty well. So yeah, Mega Lucario has a lot of breakdowns, and if we want to get into even more breakdowns, I was looking at Pokemon DB, you know, our type coverage calculator. So let's look at Fighting and Steel. These are going to be our stab. We actually have quite a few Pokemon that are not very effective that just full-on resist you, which does make it a bit tough. And some of these are very common threats. We have Slowbro, we have Aegislash, we have Thundurus. So naturally you're going to want to think about something that can stop those. Well, when we think about Slowbro, it kind of doesn't matter at that point. And if we are running Special, this is really all we've got. You might be able to mix in a Dark Pulse, which does help against Slowbro and other Pokemon like that, it makes it to where you have perfect neutral coverage, but again, you're pretty susceptible to the revenge, and you lose priority by doing so, but Dark Pulse is something you can do as well. And then we can just kind of look at the other things. With Ice, Ice is going to still give us some not very effective hits. Honestly, the most powerful thing you can do is remove Steel. That Iron Tail is a bit ineffective in a way, that you can take out the Iron Tail, maybe just run Bullet Punch as your Steel, and then you're good to go. The only Pokemon you apparently have to worry about is Surskit. Well, technically, it also doesn't count for Pokemon like Rotom Heat. So some Levitate Pokemon will give you problems with the ground. Pokemon DB doesn't factor in Levitate, But overall, you know, you don't have to be reliant on the steal as much, and if you add in something like rock, you're just looking for neutral effective hits, very strong neutral or super effective coverage. As you can see, you know, 581 super effective hits compared to 558. By taking off the steal, by taking off that adaptability, we're finding more super effective hits elsewhere, and I think that actually is going to make Lucario very strong. So a lot of people have been claiming about Lucario, and honestly it's been suboptimally run in a lot of situations, which is very, very weird to understand. But overall, you know, Lucario does have a lot of very strong aspects about it. It can run away with a game once it gets it set up, and if your opponent, and if you just play around Lucario as well, that you build your team, you say, all right, it doesn't matter, my 5 Pokemon, I don't care if I only knock out 1, 2 of the opponent's Pokemon using my 5 other Pokemon, if all of the Lucario threats go away. You experiment with Lucario, you try to bring a team, you know, you just bring different kinds of teams, different things that threaten you, something else knocks it out, try to make room for a counter to that Pokemon, and eventually you can just grow your team into like the ultimate Lucario thing. But then at the same time, you have a one-trick pony. If your opponent understands your win condition and plays around it better, you can still lose. Realistically, this is why I feel Lucario is incredibly balanced. That I was trying to not sound cliche or sarcastic or anything, but honestly, you know, it's the premier sweeper. It's just defined as a very solid sweeping Pokemon. They come with their risks, they come with their reward. Sometimes they go 6-0, but at the same time, almost any Pokemon can go 6-0 in the right situations. So Lucario does work out pretty well. Now let's talk about regular Lucario. Justified. You run normal Lucario with Justified, that way you switch in on a Dark type move, and then you Mega Evolve into Lucario. So if your plan is to do that, then you just run like just offenses, because with the +1, that could be enough, and that could be something that can really change a battle right there. But then Lucario just switched in, so now he's going to be only 90 base speed on that turn that he Mega Evolves. That is something else to consider about Mega Lucario, that if it Mega Evolves at a not optimal time, it can get outsped by anything lower than 112 base speed. To stop Mega Lucario, you just need like a faster flying Pokemon using Brave Bird in a lot of situations, faster fire Pokemon, faster ground Pokemon, a lot of Scarf Pokemon can scare it off, so it does have to play around pretty hard, but if those threats are removed, again, that's where the seriousness comes in. So to run regular Lucario, it's a bit tricky, but it is a powerful Pokemon that we can run setup on it as well, but just be a slower form of Mega Lucario. So actually, when we throw a Life Orb onto Lucario, things start to get pretty funny pretty quick. Because when we think about it, it's just a slower Mega Lucario at this point. Say we're running Timid Nature, some kind of speed boosting nature, it's actually going to be very similar. So let's go back to this set. That's going to be 379 on a neutral nature. Well, actually, with the Life Orb, that's going to boost us past 400. So effectively, we're getting the same amount of damage from a regular Lucario, it's just that speed that really matters. So if you baton pass a speed boost into Lucario, or you do agility, and you can manage to, you know, do the same thing. You do an agility, and now it's like having a mini Mega Lucario, and it still does a lot of damage, and it still has a lot of threat. So we do also lose the adaptability, but that's why we just go for those other hits. You know, it's just a weird thing when you're considering Lucario's adaptability in other situations, but regular Lucario can do the same things, just in a slower situation, but still packs a lot of damage. And then we can hop over to Bulbapedia, and we can see that Lucario also wants to do a lot of really funny things. Has access to Endure, so you can Lychee Berry. You know, if you can somehow like manage to survive, you know, you set up an agility, so maybe some tanky investment. Tank investment, you set up agility, you go Endure Lychee Berry, and now it's like 50% extra damage, and now you have a lot of freedom to move around, you don't take too much extra damage. If you do get the right setup, that is possible, and we still have a lot of really other funny things like Copycat, Nasty Plot. I don't think Final Gambit's going to work too well on Lucario, or even Mega Lucario. Not a lot of hit points there. We do have a lot of interesting things that either of them can run, so pretty much just want to come in as a very powerful, hard-hitting Pokemon. Some situations you're going to be slower, other situations you're going to be faster, but if you need the outspeed. Without the outspeed, Lucario is going to fold like paper, and with the outspeed, it actually does very, very well. So that is something to consider, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Lucario, Mega Lucario, pretty scary Pokemon. At the same time, some of the most balanced I can honestly say in the game. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.